Namashri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchid Sukha Swarupaya Swami Tapaharini. Namaste and good afternoon, everybody. It's a very significant day for us at the Vedanta Society of New York. Today, I want to speak a little bit about this place I visited in India a couple of months ago and its connection to us here. I spent several weeks in the Himalayas in May this year. And one of the places I visited was Almora. And it has strange resonances with New York, so through Swami Vivekananda. I want to talk a little bit about that today. Before Swami Vivekananda came to the United States, he traveled across the length and breadth of India. Sister Nivedita says, what went to make Swami Vivekananda Swami Vivekananda? And she says three influences. First and foremost, Sri Ramakrishna, his guru, Sri Ramakrishna. The second influence was his own extensive study of the scriptures of Hinduism, especially Vedanta. And third was his experience of India. So after Sri Ramakrishna passed, he left and went across the length and breadth of India in mountains and forests and cities and villages, from the Himalayas in the north to the Indian Ocean in the south. He traveled. And the Himalayas were especially close to his heart. He loved the Himalayas. He would say this is the dream and the aspiration of our race since ancient times, the Himalayas. The spirituality of the Himalayas attracted him. So on his travels, one day, at one time he was traveling with Swami Akhandananda on foot, and they came to this place near Almora in the Himalayas. It was a valley, a beautiful valley, and it was the conjunction of three rivers. And there's a huge old tree there, a banyan tree. So he sat down. He says, I feel this is a peculiarly powerful place. And he sat down to meditate. It's a place suitable for meditation, he said to Akhandanandaji. And he sat down to meditate under that tree. And Swami Akhandananda records that no sooner than he had sat down, he became absorbed in meditation, in samadhi. His body became stiff and absolutely still. A long time later, he came to an awareness of the external world, and he said that to Swami Akhandananda, Gangadhar, he said, Gangadhar, a great question in my life, a question in my life has been answered today. A great problem in my life has been solved. The nature of this universe, what is this? And he said, today I have seen the universe in an atom. I've seen the universe in an atom. Now, what he saw there, what he experienced there, of course, the only way to really appreciate it is to experience it for ourselves. But till that blessed day comes, we have another option, which is in New York. A few years later, he was in the West, Chicago, and then New York. And in New York in 1896, in January, he gave a couple of lectures called The Macrocosm and the Microcosm. And there he spoke about what he had realized there, what the experience that he had there in Almora, in that valley, at the conjunction of the three rivers at the foot of the mountains. You can all hear me? Yeah. So later, again, a second time, he went to Almora thrice actually. The second time he went back to Almora, he said to his brother disciples, Shivananda was there, I think Turiyanandaji was also there. And he said there that what I got here in Almora, he said, this is what I got here is what I told them in the United States. And he meant his lecture in New York. I went to Almora first time about 12 years ago. And that old tree was still there. That place is called Kakri Ghat. And it became famous because Vivekananda meditated there. So that old tree was there, and there was a little plaque there which said that Swami Vivekananda came here and meditated here. And so I also took the opportunity and I sat down and meditated. I don't think any great spiritual question of mine was solved. And now, this time I had the occasion with some other monks to go back there to that same place, Kakri Ghat. And that tree is gone. The old tree is dead. However, they did a great job of it. What they did was, there's the Vivekananda Institute of Himalayan, what's the study of plants called? Botany, Himalayan botany, I think. Horticulture, Himalayan horticulture. Established by one of Swami Vivekananda's disciples, Boshi Sen, who married an American lady, Gertrude Emerson Sen. And they lived there in Almora, and they established this place for the study of mountain, the plants, the horticulture, the botany of the Himalayas. So that institute is a very well-developed scientific institute now. And what they did was, when they heard that the huge old tree was dying, they took samples, genetic samples from it, and they cloned it. And so a clone of that tree exists now, and they have planted it right there where the old tree fell down. Now it's very beautiful. It's surrounded by a fence, and there is a little temple near that. And not only that, what would have really pleased Swami Vivekananda, the villagers there are very poor. And so there are initiatives now in the name of Vivekananda, especially for the children, for education, for nutritious food, for teaching them, games, singing, dancing, all of that. So when I went there, a whole bunch of these kids I was told by the Swami that you have to give a talk on the macrocosm, Swami Vivekananda's lecture in New York. And I thought, all right, I had taken the book and I had prepared a little bit. Then I saw all those 5-year-olds sitting in front of me, none of whom understood a single word of English. I was a little annoyed to be truthful. What am I going to talk about? High Vedantic philosophy to 5-year-olds? But it was actually a beautiful occasion. So I had to translate into Hindi what I had to say. A number of devotees were present, a number of volunteers, and it's a nice organization now in Kakri Ghat. It stands at the foot of another amazing mountain. I want to tell you about that. If you go to Almora, you should visit this place. It's quite famous now. It wasn't at that time when Swami Vivekananda went. He was in search of these unusual, powerful places, and which were very isolated. He just wanted to disappear into the mountains and never come back again. So he went to this place. It's called Kasar Devi, a place called Kasar Devi, near Almora. You have to drive maybe an hour up and down the mountains. It's pretty high up. It's an extraordinarily powerful place. And again, I'll tell you the links to New York. You'll be surprised. So Swami Vivekananda, when he found it, it was almost unknown. Not, I wouldn't say unknown, almost, because there was a Devi temple there, temple to the Divine Mother there. The place was called Kasar Devi, and the village folk always knew that it was a powerful place. People there are extraordinary, really. They are all common mountain village folk, but they are also very deeply spiritual, sort of culturally spiritual, if you know what I mean. Spirituality is part of their culture. They may not be, all of them may not be very spiritual in the sense of spiritual seeking. We are all sadhakas, we are all spiritual seekers here. They may not be like that, but spirituality is their culture, as it is in many parts of India, and especially in the Himalayas. So they knew that this place is peculiarly holy, spiritual. And the temple, and the temple even now is tiny. It's a tiny temple to the Divine Mother on the top of the mountain. It goes back, the Archaeological Survey of India has dated it to the 2nd century CE. That means it's at least 1,800 years old, that little temple. Swami Vivekananda, again, he felt that it was a peculiarly powerful place, and he spent days in meditation there. He found out a specially interior cave, and he sat there and meditated. Even now I won't say it's inaccessible. We couldn't go up to it. It's a little difficult to go up to that cave. The temple is accessible. You have to climb up there. But the cave itself is difficult. You have to be a little sure-footed or a mountain goat to access it. Vivekananda went in there and meditated for days on end, and he was deeply inspired. He later told Swami Akhandananda that he had a series of revelations there, series of deep experiences there. And why am I mentioning it here today in New York? The reason is this. Here, to make it precise, I'll pull out the information from the net. So, He says here, the Kasar Devi is, you can see the Wikipedia article. It says here that it became first well known in the 1890s when Swami Vivekananda visited and meditated here. But then, look who comes there next. People like Walter Evans Wentz, who was one of the pioneers in the study of Tibetan Buddhism, who translated the Tibetan Book of the Dead into English. He went and meditated there. Then who comes? But the Beat generation. Oh, before that, D.H. Lawrence, the famous English novelist, he spent 2 summers meditating there on that mountain. Who would know? Then comes the Tibetan Buddhist Lama Anagarika Govinda. And then, in the 1960s, New Yorkers, all the Beat generation poets, Allen Ginsberg, in that mountain. He stayed there and meditated there. And a couple of names which I am not too familiar with. Peter Orlovsky, I don't know if anybody's there in English literature, and Gary Snyder. He goes there. And then comes Timothy Leary, who kicked off the LSD revolution and everything. He went there to India and to Kasar Devi, and he spent a long time there. In fact, he wrote quite a bit there. Some of his published writings, one of them is called Psychedelic Prayers. And he wrote it there. Then he was followed by George Harrison, who goes and meditates there. Cat Stevens, who goes there. And then Robert Thurman, who actually nowadays stays right here in the Catskill Mountains. He is a famous authority on Tibetan Buddhism. And his daughter, who's even more famous, Robert Thurman once said slightly grudgingly that I am known as Uma Thurman's father. And Uma Thurman goes there, and she spent some time in Kasar Devi. And they were followed by hippies. So much so, it became known as Hippie Mountain. The next mountain, actually, Hippie Hill. The next mountain is called Hippie Hill. And all the hippies from the West Coast and the East Coast, they traveled there and they spent time there. So it's extraordinarily powerful. And I really think that if you do go that way, that side of the Himalayas to Almora, make the effort to visit Kasar Devi. Another place where Swami Vivekananda meditated, there are 3 main Devi temples there. The second one, what's the name of that? Even more inaccessible, which we did not go this time. Higher up, a Durga temple there. So he meditated in a cave there, Swami Vivekananda. Again, with the whole idea that he wanted to meditate and meditate, that was his tendency. It was his guru, Sri Ramakrishna, who scolded him. When attaining Nirvikalpa Samadhi, then Vivekananda, after he came down from Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and Sri Ramakrishna said, so what do you want to do now? And Vivekananda said, I want to remain in that state. Once in a while I'll come down for a snack. And then I'll remain in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna scolded him. He said, fie on you. I thought you would be like a banyan tree again the banyan tree motif, for thousands of people in ages to come who will find shelter under your shade. But here you are thinking only of your liberation, of your freedom. And good that he scolded him, because that's why Vivekananda comes to the World Parliament of Religions. By the way, that's a very beautiful depiction of the World Parliament of Religions. The World's Fair, Columbian Exposition actually, and the part of which was the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago. And then he came here, New York. And then he came here to Ridgely Manor. This is all because of Sri Ramakrishna's scolding. But that side of Vivekananda did not disappear, because that was his essential nature. We heard that beautiful mystical experience which Sri Ramakrishna had, where in Samadhi he sees this transcendental realm, where he sees the 7 rishis absorbed in deep meditation. And one of them is Vivekananda, or a part of one of them. Some part of the personality and power of one of them is Vivekananda. So being absorbed in meditation was probably congenital to him. It was a congenital defect in Vivekananda. He was a meditator, a yogi par excellence, and that remained with him all throughout. Sri Ramakrishna said to him, you got this experience, the highest experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, now it's locked. The key is with me. When you do the mother's work, that was his work, but mother's work. When you do the mother's work, then you will get it, it will be open for you. But until then, the key is with me. But Vivekananda being Vivekananda, once he had got that, he never stopped banging at the door, trying to unlock it. Different places. And in some places, he nearly did it. On the shores of Lake Michigan. He sat in meditation, went into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and the people around him, the Americans, they were scared. They thought he was dead. So he did that in Almora, in another cave. Do you remember the name of that other place? Not Kasar Devi, the other one. No, another one. So it's another temple like Kasar Devi. The villagers, however, so these are very powerful Devi temples. There are three of them: Patal Bhuvaneshwari, Kasar Devi, and
Nanda Devi?
No. Right in Almora itself. It'll come back. But the villagers have these cute stories about them. Villagers being villagers. They said that the Teen Devi, the three Devis, and obviously three Devis being women, they can't get along with each other. So regular rituals have to be performed to placate the three Devis, because they say because of the quarrels of the sisters, that's why we have storms and landslides and all the natural forces are upset, and then the equipoise is restored when there is peace between them. This is his third place. Swami Vivekananda went there and meditated for, I think, 3 days there, and he had a series of extraordinary experiences there. But the final thing was very interesting, and which was key to what Vivekananda became and the reason why we are here. He felt he was as if expelled from the cave to go back out into the world. And he came out into the world and traveled through the breadth of India, and he saw the starving masses, the illiterate masses, the superstitious, under a foreign dominion, and his heart melted at the suffering of the people. We saw some of the anecdotes. One of the main characteristics of Vivekananda, the ability to completely withdraw on one side, the ability to completely sacrifice himself and throw himself, to spend himself utterly in the service of others, out of love and compassion for others. Notice when that very instructive little anecdote about the young man who came to become a monk, and the others found him unfit, and he was unfit. But Vivekananda did not turn him away. Vivekananda said, look, Sri Ramakrishna could really see through a person and would say yes or no. I can't. So I give he could actually, but the way he did put it was this: I believe in giving everybody a chance. And so what would you do? So here are all these other great monks who have this power to see what's the nature of a person. Would it be right for this person to become a monk or not? And they see it wouldn't be right. Here is Vivekananda, however, he says, you give him a chance. And then, of course, you heard how Turyananda solved the problem. He said, all right, we'll give him a chance. And I have noticed that Sri Ramakrishna, only those people whom Sri Ramakrishna wants to stay here will stay, and those who does not want to stay, they will go away after some time. And that's what happened. So he got a chance and he went away. But later on, that boy went away. But my point is, Vivekananda gave him a chance. And Vivekananda would do that all the time. Sri Ramakrishna had a name for these people. Vivekananda would almost literally pick them up the streets and drag them before Sri Ramakrishna and make them spiritual. I know you can. Touch them, bless them so that they'll become spiritual. And Sri Ramakrishna would say that it's not his time. It won't work that way. Vivekananda wouldn't let go. And because Sri Ramakrishna loved Vivekananda so much, he couldn't say no to Vivekananda. So he would often bless them. And he had a slightly teasing, slightly sarcastic name for these people. He would call them Narayan's parents. It's a word for friends that he pronounced it as parents. And one senior monk said, we are all Narayan's parents. None of us really deserve to be here. We have been dragged up the street by Vivekananda, and to Sri Ramakrishna, and Vivekananda is pleading our case. Make them spiritual. Please make them spiritual. And Sri Ramakrishna, you can see him literally rolling his eyes. These people said, all right, if you say so. And that's why we are somehow, sticking on, and by the grace of Vivekananda. So that shows Vivekananda's great compassion and his great the desire to spread this saving spiritual knowledge, which comes from a person who just wanted to retire into meditation and spend the rest of his life like that. And that took him across the world, across the oceans, to these shores, to the United States, and you know the story, United States, Canada, then Europe, and so on. And that's why we are all here today, really. It's incredible. The story is, somebody told me, a filmmaker, he told me that, we really should have a film about Vivekananda the way Attenborough's film about Gandhi, at least of that quality. I said, we will, I'm sure of it. And maybe in our own lifetime we'll see that. Already some really good documentaries have been made in the last 2 or 3 years. One was released recently on PBS. So a full-length feature film, I'm sure, will come. It's so dramatic. It's so incredible, the stories of Vivekananda. Anyway, I want to end with a little bit of what Vivekananda realized there in that confluence of the 3 rivers. Now, if you read the lecture which has been published in Jnana Yoga, it's called Macrocosm. When you read what Vivekananda is saying, if you sit there under that tree, or the clone, it's clone now, at the confluence of those 3 rivers, surrounded by towering mountains and forests, and you will literally see he's describing that here in New York in 1896. So it's a thrilling thing to go and read it there, because you're seeing what Vivekananda saw and using those things as example to teach back here. Let me read a little bit and I'll finish. So this is Vivekananda. This was in 19 January 1896 in the Vedanta Society of New York. The question is, what is all this? And by all this, remember, Vivekananda is sitting there under that banyan tree, surrounded by the 3 rivers and the mountains and the valleys there. As far back as the time of the oldest portion of the most ancient human composition, the Vedas, we find the same question asked: whence is this? When there was neither aught nor naught, and darkness was hidden in darkness. He's translating from the Nasadiya Suktam, from the Rig Veda. Who projected this universe? How? Who knows the secret? And the question has come down to us at the present time. Millions of attempts have been made to answer it, yet millions of times will it have to be answered again. It is not that each answer was a failure. Every answer to this question contained a part of the truth. And this truth gathers strength as time rolls on. I will try to present before you the outline of the answer that I have gathered from the ancient philosophers of India in harmony with modern knowledge. So that's a very significant lecture, 2-part lecture, in the 3rd week of January, and then in the 4th week, the second part of that lecture. Sitting there, I recall these parts of the lecture. He says, take a little plant. You put a seed in the ground, and later you will find a plant peep out, lift itself slowly above the ground, and grow till it becomes a gigantic tree, which he's sitting under actually. Then it dies, which it did, leaving only a seed or a clone. It completes the circle. It comes out of the seed, becomes the tree, and ends in the seed again. Look at a bird, and so that place is full of birds. Look at a bird, how from the egg it springs, lives its life, and then dies, leaving other eggs, seeds of future birds. Then the rivers in front of him. The raindrop in which the beautiful sunbeam is playing was drawn in the form of vapor from the ocean, went far away into the air, and reached a region where it changed into water and dropped down to its present form, to be converted into vapor again. So with everything in nature by which we are surrounded, then the mountains which is surrounded by. We know that the huge mountains are being worked upon by glaciers and rivers, which are slowly but surely pounding them and pulverizing them into sand that drifts away into the ocean. You can see the rivers. Where it settles down on its bed, layer after layer, becoming hard as rocks, once more to be heaped up into mountains of a future generation. That's the Himalayas actually. They were all underwater at one time. Even the tallest ones, they found fossils of sea creatures on the mountain peaks there. The whole thing was underwater. It's the Indian subcontinent plowing into the Asian continent, which is forcing up the mountain. We all learned this in school geography, Again they will be pounded and pulverized, and thus the course goes on. From sand arise these mountains, unto sand they go. If we know one grain of sand, we understand the secret of the whole universe. He's just giving indications of the tremendous experience which he had there. Worth reading. I will not read out the lecture. Out of what has the tree been produced? Out of the seed. The whole of the tree was there in the seed. It comes out and becomes manifest. So the whole of this universe has been created out of this very universe existing in a minute form. It has been made manifest now. It will go back to that minute form and again will be made manifest. This little cell, which becomes afterwards the man, was simply the involved man and becomes evolved as a man. If this is clear, we have no quarrel with the evolutionists, for we see that if they admit this step, instead of their destroying religion, they will be the greatest supporters of it. Now, at that time, the challenge of Darwinian evolution was very strong, as it is now. It's sort of accepted science now. What's the challenge? The challenge is this. All religions, at least theistic religions, trace this universe back to some divine source. God created this universe, etc., etc. But evolutionary theory, first modern cosmology and then evolutionary theory, finds no need of God. So with something like the Big Bang theory, you can explain the arising of the universe down to its present shape and form without any intervention by any kind of divine deity. And by Darwinian evolution, you can explain how more or less, how life came to be like this without any kind of divine designer. So this challenge of evolutionary theory to religion is a tremendous challenge. And Vivekananda is saying actually it's not a challenge. It's fleshing out, giving more detail to the answer to that question, how did this universe come about? To that he only adds not only evolution from the seed to the tree, but again the involution back from the tree to the seed is a cyclical theory. From a seed state, this entire universe, cosmos has come. Up to this is science. But then also, he says, this will again go back. And this is the cycle of nature which you see all around yourself. Here he says religion, at least Vedanta, Sankhya, the Indian theories have no problem with it. I'm reminded of Monier Williams, the first, the one who wrote the first Sanskrit English dictionary, is an Indologist, British. So he writes that these ancient Hindus were Darwinians 1,000 years before Darwin. Not that they knew Darwinian evolutionary theory, but the ideas in Yoga Sutra, for example, Prakritya Purana, there is a sutra. In principle, there is no contradiction between evolution and Sankhya cosmology. So that's what Vivekananda is talking about. This involution and evolution is going on throughout the whole of nature. Anyway, final conclusion is a very soaring conclusion. So what is it that we see here? It is nature going from an unmanifest state to manifest state. This is the manifest state. But we'll also go back to the unmanifest state again. And from that unmanifest will arise again this manifest state. A bit like us in our daily cycle. And this is our manifest state. Here I am, this person with my thoughts, ideas, personality. Here is my life, this world I inhabit. But from my perspective or your perspective, all of this will disappear tonight. When you fall asleep and the whole world disappears from you, your own body disappears from you, your own mind, memory, personality, everything disappears from you. But it's not gone. It's not gone. It's in what is called bija avastha, seed state. And it will sprout again next day when you wake up. And it's like a computer which goes into hibernation. It's not that all the data is lost. Everything is there. It comes back again. Similarly, this universe will again pop back into existence after maybe one cycle, then the next one. So the Hindus always believed in this cyclical theory. Again, I'm not one of those who is saying that, oh, we all knew it. There is a saying, Hindus sometimes say, Vedayase. That means everything is there in the Vedas. No, not in that sense. Not that modern science was known then. No, we know it. As Vivekananda says, the answer has been given in ancient ages, but it is being given with greater and greater strength and with more detail, more understanding, more profound answer. So science is giving us more depth, more knowledge, more detailed answer, more closer to the reality or truth. So this is one answer, one way of understanding. This is nature from a seed state to manifest state, from the manifest state back to the seed state, and so on. A deeper answer. What is this nature? Vedanta will say this nature, this whole cycle is an appearance in consciousness, in Brahman. Even further, not just an appearance, it is Brahman itself. So 3 answers. The Sanskrit terms are very concise and powerful. What is this universe? Prakriti parinama, a transformation of nature from the seed state to the manifest state, from manifest state back to seed state again. That's answer 1. Deeper answer, Brahma vivatta, an appearance of the ultimate reality. Third answer, ultimate answer which Vedanta gives, it is the ultimate reality itself, experienced in all these ways. See how poetically Vivekananda puts it. Everything that you see, feel, or hear, the whole universe is, number 1, his creation, capital H, his creation. Or to be a little more accurate, his projection. Or to be still more accurate, is the Lord himself. You see, Prakriti Parinama, Brahma Vivatta, Brahmaiva in Sanskrit. It is he who is shining as the sun and the stars. He is the Mother Earth. He is the ocean himself. By the way, he, it could just as easily be she. It could just as easily be it itself. He comes as gentle showers, which we had in the morning. I think it was nice because it was expected to be a really hot day. Turned out to be very nice. He comes as gentle showers. He is the gentle air that we breathe in. He it is who is working as force in the body. He is the speech that is uttered. He is the man who is talking. He is the audience that is here. You see? He is the platform on which I stand here or sit. Literally, He is the light that enables me to see your faces. See, how can you get more vivid than this? In our ignorance, we think it's a platform. It's light. What is this Brahman, he? And that's the difference between us and the enlightened one. He is the light that enables me to see your faces. It is all he. I remember this story about the platform being Brahman. One of our senior Swamis was Swami Nirvananandaji. He's an attendant of Swami Brahmananda. So when Swami Brahmananda passed, he blessed those around him near his deathbed. And he blessed Swami Nirvanananda. He said, you have attended to me faithfully all these years. I bless you. You will attain Brahma Jnana in this very life. You will realize Brahman in this very life. So later in life, he became the vice president of our order. And so many people attested to his towering spirituality, that he was enlightened, very few. Nobody had any doubts. Some of you may have seen him. Some of you. I've seen him when I was a little kid, but I still have a very vivid impression of his face. Anyhow, a senior monk told me this story about Swami Nirvanananda. The senior monk said when he was a young novice, he was sitting in Swami Nirvanananda's room in Belur Math, in our main monastery. And Swami Nirvananda said to him, what do you see there? He said, that's a bed. A bed. What do you see under it? That's a trunk. I don't know how many of you know what a trunk is. Some of you may know, those from India, the earlier generation. They're big iron boxes. So, like modern suitcases, but not like them either, quite different. So, that's a trunk. That's a trunk. What's this? It's a table. A table. And then he started shouting, and another senior monk rushed in, thinking that the young novice did something wrong. What happened? And he says, the Swami Nirvananda asked him, this young novice, how long have you been a monk? He says, I said, this monk told me. I said, 2 years, 3 years. And the Swami Nirvananda was saying, oh my God, he's been a monk for 2 or 3 years, and he still sees this is a bed. He does not see it as Sri Ramakrishna. He does not see this, the trunk. He says it's a trunk. He does not see it as Sri Ramakrishna. He does not see this as Sri Ramakrishna. He sees it as a table. What will happen to him? And the senior monk consoled him. It will take a little time. It will happen to him. It will come to him slowly. And Swami Nirvananda shook his head dolefully. 3 years a monk, and he doesn't see God everywhere. So they were like that. Swami Vivekananda says here, he is the platform on which I stand. It is all he himself is both the material and the efficient cause of this universe, and he it is that gets involved in the minute cell and evolves at the other end and becomes God again. He it is that comes down and becomes the lowest atom, and slowly unfolding his nature rejoins himself. This is the mystery of the universe, and our mystery also. This was the great question he had. What's all this? What are we here? Why are we here? And it's no use saying it's all Brahman. Then why would Brahman be this? This is the answer he got. This is the mystery of the universe. Thou art the man, thou art the woman, thou art the strong man walking in the pride of youth, thou art the old man tottering on crutches, thou art in everything, thou art everything, O Lord. This is the only solution of the cosmos that satisfies the human intellect. In one word, we are born of him, we live in him, and unto him we return. It's a wonderful statement, actually. Our origin is divine, and to divinity we are going, and right now we are living in this ocean of divinity. It's all right. You're living on the lap of God. You're sitting on the lap of the Divine Mother. All of us. And we are forever secure. It is all right. Don't worry. And what's the song? Don't worry, be happy, or something like that. Very right. Yeah. Enjoy life. That was Vivekananda's thing. He says, if you cannot see this, he says, let all dreams cease. But if you cannot, then dream but better dreams, which are eternal love and service free. What's the highest kind of existence that we can have as human beings who are spiritual? Is to have unconditional love without conditions, without loving one and not the other is getting trapped, samsara. Loving all in general, at least having that attitude that I am the well-wisher of all. My love extends to all and it's not denied to anyone. Doesn't matter if they're likable, unlikable, whether I know them or I don't know them, it's to all. And also expressed the life that I lead as much as possible, service free. Can I be a blessing to the life around me, my surroundings, a solution to the problems, not another problem myself. So this is Vivekananda's tremendous discovery in Almora under that huge banyan tree. If you ever happen to go there, I recommend you go and sit under the clone of that tree. Maybe a little bit of that spiritual realization sticks around there, and you can. Yes. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, I pray to the Holy Mother, and especially to Vivekananda. May he make us his parent, and make sure that this realization dawns upon us in this life and our lives are blessed. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.